Hey guys, hey, it's Anne Marie of the Anti-HR. And what, excuse my French, but WTF America? What in the world is going on in America? I really try to limit my discussion of political happenings in the US because that's really not why I created this channel. I really created this channel because I want to talk about human resources and employee workplace rights and to educate employees, especially Black employees and specifically Black women, about their workplace rights and how to exit discriminatory workplaces with severance when it's applicable, right? It's something that I've done multiple times. It's how I financed the life that I live now. And I wanted to teach more people about it. And that's really why I created that platform, created this platform. But good God Almighty, it's hard to ignore everything that's going on because I actually do feel that the things that are happening with the government in the United States and the things that the government is doing is going to impact people's lives at work. And it already is based on the discovery calls that I'm having with people, because I do feel employers feel emboldened and empowered to break the law now. They think that there's no enforcement. That's not necessarily true, but they think that in many places. And in some places they're right, because, I recently did a blog post where I shared information about discrimination laws at the state level, right? And if you haven't read that, you should go read it. If you're not subscribed to my website, you should subscribe, because that's the kind, I share a lot of information through blog posts and now inside of my community that I don't share here. So I talked about that because I wanted people to understand what rights they might or might not have based on where they live, right? But I think that if you live in, quote, red, unquote, states, I think there's going to be an uptick in bad behavior. Even if you live in blue states, there is an uptick because people believe that they can get away with things now. They feel that the government is not going to do anything. And I think that's part of the intention of this government, is that there's a lot of gaslighting going on, is a lot of fear mongering going on, because it's very important to understand that what they are doing is intended to keep people off balance and afraid. And it's working. It's working. And that's why they do it. These things work. That's why people do it. And people are like, why do they do? Because it works. Divide and rule works. That's why they do it. Okay. And so, when you are reading, I notice the media reporting a lot of things about the airline industry, about plane crashes. Small planes crash all the time in the US and elsewhere. But now I'm noticing lots more coverage on it. Why do you think that is? To keep people afraid from traveling. Why don't they want you to travel? Well, if you travel outside of the US, you're going to have a better understanding of the reality that your life isn't better than other people and that you don't live in the greatest country in the world. So it is beneficial to keep you inside of the country, right? Then, I put something up this week about Florida's move to change child labor laws. These things matter because if they take away child labor protections, there was a time at the turn of the century when children of every race that were poor, a lot of white children of poor white people, and a majority of white people in the United States of America are poor. They're not living better. They just aspire and believe that other people are the reason why. The government has convinced them, wealthy people have convinced them that the reason their lives are miserable is because of Black and brown people. But that's not the reason. But there's a large majority of white people in America who voted for this foolishness, who are struggling economically, right? They're struggling. And their children, along with people that look like me's children, are the ones they're going to be having out there picking their oranges. Because somebody's got to pick them damn oranges, and it isn't going to be the rich people's children that are doing it. It has always been about money. This country was built, first and foremost, for wealthy landowners, white men, to be successful. And everything that you see happening is in service to keeping that in place. And I think it's important for people to understand that for poor white people, this is about being on top of the food chain and always having somebody to feel superior to, right? And for wealthy people who are at the back pulling all the strings, because if you believe that the people in the government are really in charge, then I really don't think that there's anything else I could have a discussion with you about, right? Wealthy people are deciding what happens at the government level and what doesn't happen. A certain group of wealthy people. And somebody has to still keep the capitalism wheel running. So if they deport all these brown people, who are primarily the people who've been working in the factories for low wages, chopping the vegetables, picking the chickens, cleaning the shrimp, right? Somebody else has to do it. Are you prepared to have your children chopping their fingers off, chopping up vegetables all day long? Are you prepared for that? So what I would say is you should care. All of us should care about this move, because this is not the first state that has done this. I believe Arkansas loosened their child labor protections a couple years ago. But what Florida is proposing to do, and I will tell you real quick because I was reading about it the other night, is very, very concerning. So what Florida is proposing to do, when I last read, is eliminate working time restrictions, allowing 14-year-olds to work overnight, allowing teens to work overnight on school days, to end guaranteed meal breaks for ages 16 and 17, because they want them out on them fields picking them oranges. They want them working overnight in the warehouses chopping them vegetables. These are things that undocumented workers have been doing. They got to replace them with somebody. So that's what they're doing. They're telling you that they're deporting criminals, but they're spiriting away regular people, many of them who are here legally, who are in the process of getting permanent residency. They're grabbing them off the street and sending them to concentration camps in El Salvador. And we must call these things what they are. They're not detention centers, they're concentration camps. You realize that when the Nazis were rounding people up, they didn't call the places they sent them concentration camps either. They got that name later. Okay? We must call things what they are. The biggest danger I see to what is happening in terms of what is happening in the U.S., and I wouldn't even say the biggest danger to democracy, because democracy is done. I don't know what's at the end of this, what's at the other side of this. I don't know what this looks like in 10 years, but I know democracy as you know it is over. You are now in authoritarianism, and people need to call things what they are. You can't combat something if you won't call it by its rightful name. Okay? So the next phase is they're disappearing people. And we can say we're resting and, this is what people voted for and so on. But the reality is that first they come for the people they think you don't care about. The media is used to demonize groups of people and pit people against each other so that you won't have any empathy, and that will allow them to do what they want to do to the people you think don't matter, until eventually the people who don't matter are you, is you. They're going to start first, as they have, with undocumented workers. Then, now they're going after people with permanent residency. Okay? If the Secretary of State can revoke somebody's permanent residency status, that should be concerning to everyone. Because if they can revoke, and if you pay attention to what is in Project 2025, this is a systematic attack. First, they're going to go after the undocumented workers, and they tell you they're criminals. They're just going after the criminals. But they're snatching anybody they can find that's black or brown, and they're rounding them up and sending them to camps in for-profit rich people running for-profit prisons. They're putting them in there. Why? Because crime is actually down. They don't want you to know crime is down, but they haven't had enough bodies to put in these for-profit prisons. Some of them were actually closing after Obama and Biden because they stopped letting people lock black people and black and brown people up for bullshit and on marijuana charges and all these different things. They got the prisons, they ain't got no bodies. Well, now they got bodies. And now they got a population that they can also use to do some of the labor that they need. And they've already been using prisoners to do labor. McDonald's, Target, I've shared articles about it. They're just going to accelerate everything. They're sending people off to El Salvador. Who knows what's happening to those people over there? And at some point, they're going to mistakenly send some citizens over there too. They are what I call, everything is always a test balloon. And if you go along with it when they do it to people that don't look like you, no one is going to be available to say anything when they start doing it to people who do look like you. Okay? So if you learn from history and you pay attention to what has happened in other countries, go and Google Argentina and the disappearances and see what comes up. You need to prepare yourself for what could very well be happening this time next year. And who were they disappearing? University professors, teachers, people who teach other people to think independently and engage in critical thinking were being disappeared in Argentina. I've read a number that at least 30,000 people were murdered or more, probably more, over a period of time in that country, or just disappeared, never seen again. People still talk about family members who disappeared. And I think it's important, and I don't say these things to scare people. I say these things because I think people need to understand where this could go. Right? Now, what's the answer? Right? I personally believe that the answer to this is that white Americans, and some of them have started marching, the mainstream media isn't reporting it, but veterans are marching, different groups of people are marching. The thing is, they're marching because something has been taken from them that they want back, their benefits, their whatever. They're not marching because they understand the bigger picture, right? Because they don't have any empathy. So they're not thinking about their fellow citizens. They're just thinking, I don't like what the government is doing. They fired me from my job, et cetera, et cetera. But they are marching. More of them need to be out on the streets. White people need to take it to the streets. Black people need to stay home and engage in economic resistance. Because there's going to need to be resistance if you don't agree across the board. People who can leave should leave. People who can't leave need to figure out how they're going to operate in an authoritarian system. Because make no mistake about what you are dealing with. They are going to start now with the disappearances of immigrants, students, and that means that universities have given the government access to information about students. Columbia should be the people who run that university, it's a shame. It's shameful what they are doing and what they are allowing to happen to people who are students at that school. But it's not just Columbia. They're targeting universities for a reason. Right? They're targeting universities. They're targeting the museums. They want to completely rewrite history. This is what happens in authoritarian regimes. Russia, North Korea, y'all better go learn about those countries because that's what you're getting ready to live under. Make no mistake about it. But I think economic resistance, honestly, to me, if someone asked me what I thought is the most effective tool here, I would say economic resistance. I don't think it serves anyone really long term besides white people. I think white people have to show their disagreement through every type of resistance that is available to them. But black people need to engage in economic resistance. So you're not just sitting at home sipping tea and not doing anything. You're sitting at home sipping tea and only spending your money on things that benefit your community and benefits you and doesn't benefit the people who are the architects of this, the oligarchs. So when you see the government, right now, the government of the United States is providing more protections for Tesla than it does school children and going to school. They won't do anything about children getting shot in the face at school, but now it's a hate crime to burn a Tesla. They just forced the District of Columbia, which has no real right of governance. I know this. I lived in the district for 20 plus years. We didn't have any statehood. No, this DC is not a state. So you're paying taxes, but you don't have the rights of a state. You don't have autonomy. They have now forced the District of Columbia to declare attacks against Tesla as a hate crime. So you can beat a gay person's ass in the middle of the street probably, and that's not a hate crime, right? But if you burn a Tesla car, it's a hate crime. So Tesla's cars have more protections now than people. That's capitalism on steroids. And they will prosecute you if you key somebody's Tesla in the parking lot and call it a hate crime. But you can go take an AR-15 into a school and shoot it up, and that's not a hate crime. And do you know that the KKK is still not designated as a terrorist organization in the United States of America? It's not. But don't you dare key a Tesla. But I think economic resistance is the key for everyone. But if someone wants to march and protest, it needs to be white people. In mass, millions of them need to take it to the streets. If they're not happy with what's going on, I can't tell anybody what to do. But if they're not happy, they should engage in civil disobedience. They should engage in whatever to reflect their unhappiness. Black people need to engage in economic resistance. We make up a huge percentage of consumer. Way more than our percentage in population in the United States is how much we consume. I know this because I consume. I do love to shop. I do love a good look, right? But if you follow me on my other channel, right now I'm shopping in my closet. I am repurposing things. I am restyling things. I am not doing a lot of shopping. I am continuing to spend my money on travel. I'm not going to let the U.S. government scare me out of doing what I love. And I think they're trying to do that. They will trap American citizens inside the United States of America because they don't want you to leave. They don't want you to know what life is like outside. Okay? And the travel industry is going to suffer in the U.S. because foreigners are not going to come here. And why should there? Why should there? When people's children are being detained and kept for 12 days in detention centers because there's some problem with their visa, instead of putting them on a plane and just sending them back home, they're detaining white people's children? Oh, people ain't coming here. Europeans, America is no longer a friend to Europeans. And I'm saying, white Americans, when y'all travel outside the U.S., y'all are going to experience what that means. I travel all over the world. I'm black, though. So, people understand when they see me that I ain't part of the problem. But y'all, on the other hand, is a different story. So, many of you will experience not being treated with open arms when you travel, and rightly so, because I think the rest of the world that is not authoritarian understands now who you are as a group. Might not individually, but as a group. Because the first time that white Americans voted this person into office, I think the rest of the world thought they don't understand. But after you put this person back in, now they understand that this is who the majority of Americans are. And so America is going to be ostracized, right? And rightly so. America's only allies, it looks like very soon, is going to be Russia and North Korea. So maybe, those of you who choose to stay and continue to live under this without protesting and are okay with it, those of you who voted for this person, I don't think I have a lot of people who voted for this person following me, but, if you are here, you're very quiet because, I do block people. But if you voted for this, I would suggest you start learning Russian. I hear it's a hard language to learn, but people do learn it. I suggest you go start brushing it up on that, because that might be the only country that you could go to on vacation very soon. I'm just saying. But for the rest of you, I do think that you should continue to travel. You should continue to do the things that make you happy and bring you joy. I believe joy is resistance. Rest is resistance, but too much rest is also bad for you, right? Laying down in your bed all day is not healthy every day. So I think it's important for us to rest and not engage in things that do not serve us. But I also think it's important for us to pay attention to what's going on while we're resting, and that we have to know that at some point we're going to have to stop resting and start acting. Now, to me, acting does not involve marching and protesting for Black people. I don't think it serves us to do that. I don't think we should do it. I don't care what they do, because as you can see this week, you found out how incompetent they are. So now they're like putting all these things into the media, and anytime they get caught doing anything wrong, they are going to flood the media with bullshit. So right after you find out that they are making war plans in a group chat, they start talking about Hot Wheels and ableism and she should apologize. It's bullshit. That's all I'm going to say. And any Black person who got on social media or came into my comments talking about, oh, both things are wrong, I blocked them. We're not doing moral equivalencies here. I don't care if she calls him King Hot Wheels. People in Texas call that man Hot Wheels all the time. This is a person who cares nothing about marginalized communities, including people with disabilities. You want to turn this into an issue and a debate. Why? Because you don't want people to talk about the fact that y'all are up there playing war games in the group chat. So now you're putting out news about attacking the National Museum of African American History. I could have told y'all that was coming. I was surprised they hadn't done it already. But these things come out in a strategic way because they want to, first of all, keep their base riled up and triggered. And they want them to know they're all about, this is anti-DEI. And they put it out there because it helps them keep their base, right? And they want you to talk about that and be angry about that so that you won't talk about their incompetence, right? But the reality is that none of these systems define who we are as Black people. I've been to that museum. I think it was great. I think if you haven't had an opportunity to go, you might want to go now, right? I honestly think that museum should be private. I don't think the government should be giving any money to any of those museums. If they want to be independent, then they have to be independent from government funding. And I feel that there are enough wealthy Black people in America that if they want to keep that museum's doors open, they can. But if they do or they don't, Black people don't need to be protesting in the streets. Let them do what they want. Let them do what they want. We need to engage in economic resistance. Don't give your money to companies that have said that they are against DEI or that they're pulling back from DEI or have stepped back from DEI. Just don't give them your money. Don't buy cars from companies. Well, right now, nobody's going to be able to buy a car because he just instituted a 25% tariff. So the price of your cars are going to go up. Because remember, tariffs get paid for by the customer, not by the person making the product. They just slap the 25% onto the price of the item and you have to pay it. So all these tariffs that he's declaring, you are going to have to pay it as American citizens and consumers. All the more money, all the more reason for you to not buy a new car if you don't need one. People are just not going to spend money on things that they don't need to have, and it's going to cause a recession. Apparently, that's what they want. The dollar is going to be devalued, more likely than not, over time, right? It'll be very interesting to look at where the dollar is today, and then in a year, look at where it is, right? Because foreign governments and companies are going to respond to these things. They're not just going to lay back and take it. So if the United States government decides to, go after all these other countries with tariffs, then they have to respond in the same way. So it's probably going to be a worldwide recession very soon because recessions are taxes that are paid for by consumers, no matter where they happen, right? So all of these things are happening, though, to keep you off balance. And so you have to figure out, how do you keep your head when everybody else in the government is losing its head, right? And for those people who keep coming into my comments saying, and I'm at this point going to say it's dumb, saying dumb stuff like, well, when are they going to impeach him? Who's going to impeach him? Do you understand how the government works? Who's going to bring the articles of impeachment when the ruling party is his party? Nobody in his political party is going to impeach him. Stop saying dumb stuff on the internet. It just indicates that you're not a critical thinker and you don't know how your own government works. He's not going to be impeached. He's not going to be removed by his party. It's not going to happen. And what they are doing right now is consolidating power so that they don't have to worry about future elections. Right? Finally, some Democrats are stepping up and saying what people have been thinking all along about the validity of the last election. But at this point, it doesn't matter whether it was valid or not. They're in power now. If the Democrats had a concern about whether or not there was any illegitimacy to the last election, they should have said so on November 6th. Right? To this day, this man still claims that Joe Biden didn't win the last election, which he did win. But Democrats said nothing. So now is not the time to be complaining about that. Now is the time to figure out how you're going to respond to this. And the problem is that the opposition party, which is the Democratic Party, is like the gang who can't shoot straight. They keep bringing a knife to a gunfight, and they are not meeting the moment. So people cannot expect that anything that the Democrats do is going to help or save them. So you have to engage in your own resistance. And that is how and where you spend your money. If you're going out to dinner, find a Black-owned business to go to. Or stay home and cook at home if you are in the U.S., right? Do not spend your money with people who have shown you that they don't care nothing about you. We have to stop doing that. And yes, it's hard, and that requires sacrifice. So it's not that we aren't sacrificing anything. Not shopping at Amazon is hard for me. It's very inconvenient. And I don't even live in the U.S., right? But Amazon exists all over the world. It's Amazon Mexico. I'm not shopping with Amazon Mexico either. Unless it's literally, I have to do it, I'm not going to do it. I'm investigating competitors. There are other companies that will also they cannot get me everything, but they can get me many things. And I also ask myself now every time, do I have to have this? Right? And I think we have to do that too. But I'm not going to stop doing things that bring me joy. I'm not going to stop traveling. I'm not going to stop. If I want a nice pair of shoes, I'm going to buy it. If I want a new shirt, I'm going to buy it. I'm not going to engage in making myself miserable, right? Because then you're just cutting off your nose to spite your face. But I am going to be thoughtful about what I do and when I spend money, who I spend it with and where I spend it with, right? And so I think that's very important for us as Black people to do very intentionally and actively, to use this time to support each other. I just was viciously attacked in a comment section because I basically told the person or said to the person that engaging in a debate about whether Jasmine Crockett was right or wrong was dumb, because it is. And this person just viciously attacked me, a Black woman. So I just, blocked her and moved on with my day. Because I don't argue back and forth with people on the internet. I said what I said, and that's it. But I think it's important to understand that right now we're not going to make it if we are not supportive of each other. And if we're not engaging in critical thinking at a very high level, we're not going to make it. Every single time this government gets caught doing something wrong, and it's going to be a lot. The media, right now, at least they're telling you things. Over time, they may stop telling you altogether about the things that they're doing, right? They will flood the media with bullshit in the days after they get caught doing something. They're doing it now. The Jasmine Crockett thing, the museum funding thing, all of these things are being dropped at the time they're being dropped to make you not talk about SignalGate, to make you not talk about the fact that they were discussing military details of an attack in a group chat on a Signal. Like, who does that? Your government. If you're American, that's who. And they don't want to have you talking, because if you really start thinking about this, you realize this is very serious. And it could be a violation of the law. And that's why they don't want you to talk about it. This is the kind of thing that when you had a functional government, they would be having hearings. They would be getting ready to have hearings about this. They would be calling people to testify. Do I think any of that is going to happen? No. People would already resigned 15 years ago behind this. Everybody would have lost their jobs. People were resigning. That's not going to happen now because there's no accountability. And instead, they'll do things to try to, first they deny, then they deflect, then they start the disinformation. The 3Ds. Remember the 3Ds, because every single time they get caught doing something wrong and or illegal, deny, deflect, disinformation. And a lot of these tactics, which is a good segue, you're going to experience at work. Because what happens in the larger society eventually shows up in your workplace. Because we are all, workplaces are microcosms of your larger society. So there's going to be more microaggressions. There's going to be more gaslighting, where people try to tell you that what you see and saw is not what you saw, ain't what you really saw, right? What you've experienced isn't what you really experienced. So, and a lot of these things I'm hearing already from people on discovery calls. I just had a client return to, come back to me for help. And we were talking about what was happening in her workplace. And she said to me, because I said to her, I've taught you what to do. You know what to do. And she said to me, I know what to do, but I didn't expect this to happen again. And that actually almost brought tears to my eyes. And I had to tell her, but it is going to happen again. And it's going to happen again after this. And again. And the whole point of what I'm teaching you is because I want you to be ready and to know what to do when you deal with discrimination in your workplace. Because the things that I teach my clients, I teach them because I want them to have the tools and the knowledge to protect themselves at work. And so I always am happy to have return clients, and I provide anybody that needs my support. But I really don't want return clients because I want people to know what to do. I've had other former clients contact me and tell me, this happened to me at work and this is what I did and it worked out because I knew what to do, right? But the reality is that workplaces are going to become more hostile, more discriminatory, and you need to understand that and be ready. Why I created my community is the same thing, because I want to give people access and talk about things in ways that I can't talk about on YouTube. Right? I literally just made a video and then deleted it because I was like, I'm going to shoot that and put that in my community because I don't feel like there's certain things I just don't feel comfortable saying because this platform don't belong to me. All right? I'm getting ready to launch some mini coaching sessions inside of my group where people who are in the group are going to be given access to me for mini coaching sessions around their workplace issues. I can't do that on YouTube. But I can do that for the people who join my community. So these are parts of the reasons why I'm doing these things, because I'm looking from where I live at what is going on in the U.S. and it's appalling. It's appalling, right? And the fact that I know that there are people who are now protesting. It's not necessarily being covered. I'm reaching for my smoothie. I'm hungry and I haven't eaten yet today. It's not necessarily being covered in mainstream media in the U.S., but it's being covered outside the U.S. So people apparently there was a big veterans protest. Just a sea of white folks. I was very proud of them, proud of white people for getting up and protesting. But it's going to need more. It's going to need to be more of y'all. To have any traction, y'all going to need March of Washington size pop crowds, right? Y'all going to need March of Washington size crowds, but without black people. Black people need to continue to stand down when it comes to marching and protesting. We can protest with our dollars. White people need to protest with their bodies and their voices, right? And I think that it's going to take more protests. I think people are going to have to show up everywhere and raise some hell, go to their town hall meetings, and raise some hell and demand accountability. But in the meantime, they're going to continue to flood the zone, and they're going to continue to implement Project 2025. They mean to dismantle the U.S. government as they know it. They are trampling the Constitution. This is not a constitutional crisis. This is a constitutional collapse, right? They're defying court orders. Judges are telling them that they can't deport people, and they're deporting them anyway, right? They're disappearing people off the streets of American cities. These are things that people need to realize, and realize what this signals. Okay? Like I said, Google Argentina and disappearances. Take these things seriously, because they always start with people they think you don't care about. And then eventually, right now it's undocumented immigrants. Now they're moving to permanent residents. They're literally disappearing. They disappeared a permanent resident off the streets and out of his home, and claimed that they had revoked his permanent residency. The Secretary of State has no authority to revoke anybody's permanent residency. It's an illegal act. You have to pay attention to these things, because the next thing they're going to seek to do is revoke people's citizenship. And don't think just because you were born in the U.S. that you are protected. Okay? If they can revoke someone's residency, and now they're talking about reviewing people's naturalized citizens applications to see if they can take their citizenship away from them, every American should be concerned. I was born in the United States of America, so one could argue that I shouldn't care, right? But you have to care. You can't only care when it happens to you. Now, you don't have any obligation to do anything, but you have to pay attention. This doesn't mean you have to go protest, but you have to pay attention, because you need to understand what it could mean for you and your family. Because if they can take other people's rights, they can take yours too. Don't ever think it's just them and it's not me. Understand what it means. If they can come for other people's rights, they can come for yours. So you have to engage in resistance. But resistance is different for everyone. It doesn't have to look the same. And so I really believe that Black people in America need to engage in economic resistance. Everybody else, white folks, not even everybody else, white people, need to engage in civil resistance, right? And those two things together might get you somewhere, maybe, or maybe not, right? But I do not believe that Black people need to put their bodies in the street. I don't think Black people need to be in the street at all. That's just my personal opinion. But I do want people to understand what this means for their workplaces. I did a blog post a month or two ago where I talked about protections at the state level. I think it's very important for you to know what your state laws say or don't say, whether your state has anti-discrimination laws or not. Many states do not, but there are several that do. You need to know what those are right now, because the federal government kind of shaky. Right now, they're still enforcing the law. But I think the time is going to come where, while they may not repeal the Civil Rights Act, there will be no enforcement. While they may not repeal the Americans with Disabilities Act, there may be no enforcement. And if a law is not enforced, does it really exist? I think that's the direction in which things are moving. And they're moving rapidly because they're purging the government, or they're seeking to purge the government. So if they, and they will pack it with their own people. Do not believe that they're not going to rehire people. They're going to rehire who they want to rehire, and they're going to put ideologues and partisans in these jobs. And do you think that a MAGA person working in EEO is going to care anything about your complaint if you're not white? Do you? So now is the time to act. If you believe you're facing discrimination at work, now is the time to act. I've been trying to tell y'all for months now. I've been saying this since last year. Now is the time to act, people. Time is running out. I'm not saying this to scare people. I'm saying it because I believe it to be true. So if you feel that you are being discriminated against at work, now is the time to act. And the other thing is, don't think that these things can't happen to you over and over again. Don't think just moving to a new job is going to fix it. Because being Black in America means that more likely than not, you're going to deal with discrimination multiple times in the workplace. If you're working in corporate America, in non-corporate America, if you're working anywhere, you're going to deal with discrimination at some point, and likely more than one time. So you need to know what to do. You need to recognize it. You need to know how to document it. You need to know how to report it and what to do about it, because especially in this environment, it's likely to be happening more. And if my discovery calls it any indication, it is. Employers are just getting real raggedy with it. They really feel like they could do what they want. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Right? So I just wanted to share these thoughts. I don't want to, just go on and on, but I've just been this week with I had to stop. Like, you can't get away from it, because if you're on social media, whatever, you're hearing it. And I'm just like, WTF, America. Like, good grief, y'all. So all I can say to you guys is hang in there and pay attention to what's going on. Don't just sit at home and drink your tea and think that none of this stuff is going to touch you, because it's going to touch everybody. But how you respond to it should be different this time. This time, I don't believe that the answer is marching. Not for us. Not for people that look like me. White people, take it to the streets. Y'all need to make your little signs, put your pussy hats on, go out there, lay in the streets if you got to. Do what y'all got to do. Leave us out of it. We will be at home economically resisting. That's what I believe, our best bet. And to those two things together, you might be onto something, right? Because I think that, the things that I think are coming, which I won't even get into on here, but I'm probably going to do a little chat in my community about where I think this is where I think this is all going and what people need to be thinking about, because, unlike a lot of other people, I don't suffer from a failure of imagination because I'm a student of history. So where this is going ain't nowhere good. So if people don't get this nipped in the bud soon, I read somewhere that they believe that they will have fully implemented the things they want to implement by summer. I don't know if that's true, but I read it, right? I don't believe everything I read, right? But they are definitely implementing their Project 2025, right? If you've read it, then you could clearly see that they are doing it. So I do think that people need to take this seriously. The people who are not okay with what is happening need to act, and they need to demand more from their government, and they need to demand more from their political parties. There has to be accountability. Okay? So those are my thoughts on this week in America, because I don't usually, and I'm not always going to comment on this week in America, but this week in America was wild. From the group chat thing to the other stuff that they did after that, to deflect and deny and misinform. It's very textbook at this point, and I really feel that we need to, when something happens, you need to be prepared for the deflection and the denials and the misinformation that's going to come afterwards, because you're not going to make it if you don't start seeing the patterns. And what worries me is that we as Black people are not seeing the patterns. I'm not as concerned about other people, but I really think it's important for us to see the patterns so that we are not acting in alignment and engaging in ways that benefits their messaging. For me, it really upset me when I saw Black people engaging around whether or not Jasmine Crockett should apologize. Because to me, that's the wrong question. You ask that question, you're not thinking. The question is, why are we even talking about Jasmine Crockett the day after we found out that the Department of Defense, the head of the Department of Defense and the NSA and all these people and the Vice President of the United States were in Signal discussing classified information and engaging in military planning in a group chat platform that people use to cheat on their wives and talk about their vacations and this type of bullshit. Like, what are we doing? The day after that, They want to talk about her in a speech to the Human Rights Campaign, I think it was, referring to the governor as Hot Wheels. Are you all serious? Are y'all okay? Are we not engaging in critical thinking anymore? What are we doing? I expect them to do that foolishness. I don't expect us to engage with that. And I know a lot of this is driven by clicks and people's desire for engagement. So they'll just talk about whatever the hot topic is because they want engagement. I'm not pressed for that kind of engagement, which is why you didn't see no video come out with me talking about that. I made a post in YouTube and it was very short, which is to say this is bullshit. And I blocked anybody that tried to come up and make moral equivalencies. Because this is not a democracy up in my comment section. You come in here with bullshit, I'm going to block you. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to comment with you. And I'm not going to let other people argue with you. I'm just going to remove you. Because if you don't have the mental capacity to understand what is going on around you, I am not going to continue to try to educate people about these things. Come on. Can we engage in some critical thinking, please? The day after, now they want to talk about that. Why do you think that is? Deny, deflect, misinform. Deny, deflect, divide. They do it because it works. Stop letting them do it to you. You have to literally be able to be like, this happened today. They're going to drop some craziness in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And there it is. All of it is part of their flood the zone. And when they do something stupid, they come out with flooding it with bullshit to deflect, to get your mind off of what you should be talking about. Right? So we got to be smarter. So that is my thought at the end of this week. This is not what I was planning to do a video about, but I just feel like I needed to just get some of this off my chest because I've been really frustrated by the response that some of us have had to some of what has happened. And honestly, also to just be like, WTF America. Like, what in the entire hell? Come on. But there's just going to be more and more of this. So I really think that, we have to continue to talk about other things, not just this, because you could allow this to consume your whole existence. And that to me is not healthy. So I do feel joy, happiness, travel, rest continues to be resistance, and also making economic decisions. And not economic decisions that deny you from having access to joy, happiness, rest, and in my case, travel, but being more thoughtful about who gets access to your money. Like really thinking about, is this going to help, send Jeff Bezos to the moon? And do I want to do that? Is this going to help pay for his wedding in Venice? And do I want to do that? Those kinds of questions, right? Are these people that care about me, or these people that are trying to help turn the whole society that I live in to one big slave camp where they get to live high on the hog and the rest of us suffer? That's the way we have to think about how we spend our money going forward. So I hope this was helpful. I'm sure you guys will tell me what you think in the comment. I rambled a little bit in this video because I really didn't have a topic per se. I just wanted to share my thoughts on this past week because WTF America. I will be back up soon with another video about HR related stuff because I have several things that I want to talk about. And there's some things that people have even asked me to talk about. And I want to talk about those things. But I really wanted to just get this off my chest. So that's what I'm doing. I'll see you guys on Monday in the next video. Have a good weekend. And remember that HR is not your enemy, but they're definitely not your friend. But I am. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.